Here we go. Hi, everyone. Hi. Welcome to this pop-up episode of Craft Cafe Live, you guys, with your host of all things craft, Latoya Riggins, you guys. So I always give a few minutes in the beginning to just get everybody in place so that they can sign on to the live. If you are watching from home, you are watching through Facebook. So shout out to Facebook Live. I always want to make sure that I am getting it and I can share it out so people know that we're live, you guys. So today we have a great treat for you today. We have Miss Jeanette Holeman from Primerica. I always put the America. Primerica, you guys. So before we get started, I just always want to give a quick background on what we're doing. So if you are new to the Craft Cafe, welcome. And if you are returning to the Craft Cafe, welcome back. All right. And thanks for tuning in. So what Craft Cafe Live is our online show where we get to showcase and give a platform to leaders in the early childhood education industry, you guys. And we showcase all types of leaders, different types of leaders, and we give out all of the, I would say, the amenities that come with business, because we're all about leadership, okay? To take it back a little bit, Craft, I'm rocking my Craft family. Y'all know that that's my favorite brand of ours. I shouldn't have favorites, but I do. And I have my limited edition Craft family mug right here. So if you have the mug, definitely whip it out. Bring it on down. Let me adjust this. There we go. Now, Craft by Better Futures is an online business and professional development platform that is specifically designed for early childhood education business leaders, you guys. And we are all about empowerment for business and in childcare. So just to kind of give you a big a recap on why we're doing this and where this comes from, if you are a Craft member, then you were privy to our class that we just had called Make Your Children Millionaires. And that class was amazing because we got to talk with different business owners about how to hire their children into their business. That's definitely why I'm rocking Craft Family, because Craft Family childcare is a prime example of a great way to hire your kids in your business. You can definitely use their help, but you got to do it the right way. So if you are a Craft member and you did take that class, you know what I'm talking about. If you are not a Craft member, go ahead and join today at our website, www.betterfuturesdc.com, okay? And what we talked about was how to hire your children legally and get tax breaks and all of that good stuff, and what you can do with the money. So Childcare Tax Pros, that's one of our partners. Definitely shout out to them. They're amazing, but they don't do what Jeanette does. They do the tax piece. So they didn't want to go too deep into what happens after your children make the money and how to make that money grow and create wealth. So that's why I had to call up my girl, Jeanette, because I said, you know what, Jeanette, we have been doing this series and people want to know what do they do next. So I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, Jeanette, and tell everybody what you do. You're on mute, honey. She's coming on. So as you guys know, while she's getting her screen together, as you know, we're all about business and improvement. So we want to bring in the experts, because at Craft, we're experts at what we do, but we don't try to be in someone else's lane. We bring in the pros. If we can't do it, we know somebody who can. So Jeanette, you ready?
I'm ready. Okay, so Latoya, thank you so much for having me first and foremost. I think I'm really excited about what Craft is doing and what your whole platform is doing, because we need to be connected. When we have resources available in our community, why aren't we exploring them, right? And so I think what we have here with what you guys offer are tremendous partnerships where people are allowed to really make those connections, empower themselves financially, grow their business. And so we're really excited to be able to share with you today. I'm just honored that you thought of me to be able to participate in this for you. So I've actually been a life insurance and investment licensed with our company since 2014. Started on a part-time basis, eventually saw this just to be a better career field. And now I run an office in Largo, Maryland. We have well over 20 licensed agents that work through this office, and we're expanding right now. But one of the things that's really near and dear in my heart is just really being connected and rooted in our community. And so to be able to partner with you guys and just share this information on your platform is just a wonderful opportunity. And I really thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Jeanette. And just guys, just to give you a background, I've known Jeanette for some years now, and I really, I love how she talks about the numbers, and that's really where it comes down to. And when I tell you, she knows her stuff. I keep a good calculator handy, but she knows how to flip those numbers out her head like Jahi. So I had to bring her, like, you need to talk to Jahi Davis, MBA from Better Futures, because he's what I call the money man. So he ex-banker, all of that. So you guys kind of speak the same language, but you guys do something a little bit different than what banks do initially. Like, they do have investments and things like that, but I feel like with a company like Primerica and then somebody like you that has the license, can you talk about how important it is to deal with somebody that has a license in insurance and investments? Because I didn't even know that you had to have a license. So I'm blown away. I'm like, wait, what? Good thing I didn't know somebody else.
I'm glad that you really touched on that, because that's so critically important. Because a lot of times when it comes to these different types of financial products, we're getting advice from a friend, we're getting advice from a family member. A lot of times, even when we're looking at, I know we have a lot of business owners through your program, but even with people who work on a job, right? The first place they're going is like HR, right? And those persons are typically not licensed, right? And so when we have questions about how to prepare for our future, how to scale, how to do the things that we need to do as far as business and finances, we need to talk to a professional, right? And so even when it comes to the life insurance space, a lot of life insurance agents are not also investment licensed. And so that limits the conversation that they can have about your overall financial structure or a game plan that they might put in place, because they're not licensed to look at both sides of that. So I think that's a really critical point. I'm glad that our company offers us the ability to get those licenses and really be able to not only talk to a person and just educate them, but then partner them with the right tools and resources to be able to make these things happen.
I love that, Jeanette. We have this time together. So before we jump into all the different ways to make your children millionaires and really grow your wealth, I want you to talk a little bit about you. Like, what led you to this field? What did you do before this? Or was this your dream?
No. Okay, so great question. Okay, so I went to college, North Carolina Central University. Shout out to all the Eagles, right? School of Business, I graduated with my bachelor's in business management. And to be honest with you, when I graduated from college, that was the time around the 2008 market crash. And nobody was getting a job in their field graduating from college. So I was really just kind of, scrambling. I was applying a lot of places, trying to figure out what am I going to do next, and just happened to come across an opportunity to work in property management. Okay, so I worked in property management for a local, for a luxury apartment community company in the DMV area. My first property, Toya, was a senior community, 55 and older.
Okay.
Working at a senior community really was an eye-opening, a life-changing experience, because I would get a clear window into what happens to people when they get to the point of retirement and they don't have it together. So, I mean, we're talking about government employees, we're talking about business owners, we're talking about professionals, we're talking about across the board. They're all ending up at this one same path, this one location of Social Security, maybe a pension, maybe a little bit of money. And I think it's really devastating to see someone that has this grand lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you've got to downsize everything because it's gone. And so what I realized is that the people who were like the ones on the AARP commercial playing tennis and taking trips with the grandkids, their lifestyle was a little different. And when I talked to them, because I believe success leaves clues. They all said that they had talked to a financial professional or created multiple streams of income in retirement or both, right? And so that really pushed me to think, okay, I gotta learn more about money and finances. I think when you go to school, you get a good education, even if you're working in even if you have a business management degree, right? Nobody's really sitting down to talk to you about the ins and outs of personal finances, how things actually work in this country that we live in, right? And what to look out for. So we just start making money and we have no real experience in how to grow it, how to leverage it, and how to not be a victim of, some of the predatory traps that are out there. So that's what pushed me to kind of gain that interest. I think sometimes when you seek, you will find. So somebody found me in the hair salon and asked me if I keep my options open to make an additional income. And I definitely took advantage of the opportunity, and it's been game over since then.
Wow. I'm so glad I asked you that because I had no idea. You know how person, that's just what they are right now, but you don't realize how they got there. And one thing I say about early childhood education is this is the type of industry where you have to be, it's a calling on your life. And it's up to you to answer it. So you physically having someone seek you out, and then I love how you talked about seeing them, I don't want to say at the end, but like the later part of their lives and realizing like, wow, I got to get ahead of this. And then not just for you, but for other people. And you already know I'm social media all day. I'm on Instagram Live. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm listening to all these videos. I'm on YouTube. I'm one of those people, like I listen to the different, I just gotta keep my ear to the streets, I call it. So I keep my ear on the pulse of what's trending, what people are talking about. And one thing I've been hearing, I say for the past maybe 2 years, generational wealth, I'm gonna make a legacy, generational wealth, all of these things that, people talk about. And you don't, it sounds good, for somebody, I would say like myself, who, come from the poverty neighborhoods. I'm from the Bronx, New York. So we didn't think about wealth building. We were thinking about what we're gonna eat tomorrow. So when you see all these fabulous lifestyles, like you said, where people are playing tennis and stuff like that, and when you start to hear people that look like yourself saying generational wealth, you're tuning in. But the caveat to that is these are regular people that don't really know. They heard it, like you said, they heard it from a friend of a friend, and they don't really know. Like one thing that stuck out to me with the whole generational wealth thing, that's what is the part that you can employ your children. You know what I mean? And one thing that I learned from you about the difference between just setting some of these opportunities for wealth building for your children only come if they are earning income. So can you talk about that piece?
So I think one of the things, and I'm going to talk about this too when I go through a couple of my slides, but I think it's really important for us to understand how wealth is created, right? How we actually earn income. And I think one of the biggest things about making our children millionaires is really starting to talk to them at an early age about money. See, money is always flowing. It's always moving and circulating. But if we don't take time to understand it, to create a relationship with money, then there's no way we can leverage it properly. That's how we get taken advantage of, right? Or we're finding things out late in the game. And so I think there has to be a removal of the stigmas of, I don't want to buy my business. They can't, I'll tell them later, or we can't have these conversations at a young age. I think that that's part of the piece that's missing, is that connection to what's real, right? So even when you talk about making your children millionaires, or you're talking about generational wealth, right? Part of it is definitely creating the income, because that's, you got to make money, right?
Right.
Right. But then how do we grow it? And how do we maintain it? And then how do we transfer it? Right. So those are different components, right? And so for a lot of us, we are having a reactionary experience when it comes to these things, right? Oh, I buy life insurance because my mom passed away and she didn't have any. Okay. So now that's the reason why we get life insurance, right?
Right.
Oh, I seen so-and-so retire and they had to go back to work. I need to figure out my finances, but you already 58, right? So everything is reactionary. But if we can get there and we can get started early, we can get rooted in it and understand, how these things work, understand the different forms of income, because it ain't just one, right?
Right.
Then we can really make a difference in terms of how we navigate these things and really create wealth.
Well, I love that. I love that you talk about the education piece. I was trying to look, I don't have it handy, but I got this workbook. It's for kids. It's a financial literacy workbook, and it's by a Black family who created it for Black children, because a lot of times in the Black community, money, we operate in the scarcity thing. You know what I mean? The scarcity model. So we, like you said, we're not even thinking about that piece when we first start out. So what are some things that parents can do to help, educate their children?
Mm-hmm. So, actually, if I could, you let me know what you want to do. I could start sharing my slides and go through that.
Start sharing.
Because these are some of the topics. These are some of the topics that I definitely want to hit on. And I'm going to skip through a couple of them just because we've already kind of touched a little bit on it. But yeah, there are definitely some things that a person can do when it comes to kind of putting these things together. I personally, what I do is I help people build their financial house, right? And so we're talking about protecting the income. We're talking about budgets, emergency funds, wills, plans to get out of debt, retirement, college savings, any other investment goals and dreams that they may have. And so a lot of times people have some of this stuff going on, Toya, but there's no strategy, there's no expert, and everybody just figuring it out, right? So that's where we come in to kind of help, put the pieces together, right? And so we definitely want to educate and build, but we definitely also need to maintain and transfer. So I want to really talk about this concept because this is going to kind of go into a lot about what you're asking. There's a concept called the theory of decreasing responsibility, and it's generally how life works, right? And so if you have young children, high debt, you have a mortgage, things like that going on, right? This is actually most likely your wealth building age. These are the people that are, in their 20s going up to maybe like 45, maybe 50. You might have a young child still, we see, I got a client who's 55 and he's got a 5-year-old. So
oh yeah, them late babies is slipping out.
Right. But when this is happening in your life, you have a lot of responsibilities and you're also trying to build your wealth at the same time. So this is when you've got to have the education, you've got to be strategic, and you've got to be willing to take some risks, but also make the right decisions with your money. And so having someone to help coach you through that is definitely important. But this is actually when people need to have a lot of life insurance in their life. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that works and how that kind of falls into the wealth building part of it. But then when your later years of life with grown children, low debt, and a mortgage paid off, you want to have all your assets in place and be smooth sailing, right? What happens is a lot of times, Toya, because we don't do this stuff early, is you got people on the retirement end that are buying a new house, right? They're creating new debt. Okay. And hey, if you want to get a new house, and I'm not telling you not to, but that starts your responsibility over, because now your adult children are going to have to deal with that if you pass away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got this new debt that you created, this new asset that's not paid for. So there's a lot of things that, we start to do later on in life, and we're not thinking about, okay, how do we really protect that? How do we transfer the wealth? What does that really look like? Okay. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to a couple of concepts that we teach, the second one I want to talk to you guys about is the rule of 72.
Love it.
Okay. Now, this is not something we made up. It was invented by Albert Einstein. It's a concept on how fast or slow money grows based on the interest rate you're getting. So let's say, for instance, you're putting money in a bank, or you do a CD for your child, right? And the bank is giving you 3% interest. Or Toya, have you ever heard people say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get a high yield savings account"?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So what's the interest rate, right?
Yes.
So these things are important, right? So let's say, for example, you're getting a 3% interest rate. You got $10,000 saved for your child, right? And you want that to grow for their future. Okay. So take 72 divided by 3, and it's going to give you the approximate years it's going to take for your money to double, right? So Toya, if you've got that $10,000 in there today, and you're waiting 24 years for it to double once, how old will your child be? That 10,000 doubles to $20,000. Right. How old will you be?
Right.
So the interest rate matters tremendously, right? Higher rates of returns are, everybody's like, okay, let me get a higher rate of return, but where do you go to get it? And we'll talk about that. And how does that actually affect you long term? Well, that same $10,000 at 12% is doubling every 6 years. So if you're giving your money to a financial institution and they're reinvesting it out in the global economy, they're getting these higher rates of returns while they're giving you back pennies on the dollar, right? Now, if you think about this in terms of, and there are financial calculators, just so you guys know, you could do compound interest calculators. You can Google them. They're all out there. This is not something that, is only exclusive to me. This is information that you can find. Okay. So compound interest calculators are definitely there, but 12%, your money's doubling every 6 years. Even if you look at this example, 48 years later, at an average 12%, what's that number right down there at the bottom? 2.5 million.
Well, for 10,000.
So think about this, guys. If we're talking about making our children millionaires, I just dropped one clue. Okay. When you set up an account for your child, whether that's like an UGMA or any type of savings account, you put a deposit in there of $10,000. The account value grows at a higher rate of return, 12% or even 9%. By the time they're your age, or they're 48 years old, they're millionaires, just like that. That's a one-time contribution. That's not with you adding more to it every single month. It's a one-time contribution, right? So the interest rate is critically important. So the first thing we've got to do, and when it comes to this concept, I want you guys to keep that in mind. I want you to keep the theory of decreasing responsibility in mind, but I want you to make a note of it. And then later on at some point, take a look at your accounts. Take a look at what you got in your savings account. What interest rate are you actually getting? Okay. Now, here's some basic tips, right, in building and educating. We've got to teach our children how to understand money early. Okay. We've got to teach them about investing early, and there's fundamental accounts that we should have. And then we've got to avoid the biggest financial traps, which are debt, okay, and poor life insurance products, right? And we're going to talk about that now, because you talked about social media, right? And there's a lot going on and floating around about that. And we need to clear that up because, life insurance is known to be America's best kept secret to creating generational wealth. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what they're saying online on the internet. They are saying that. And that's why meeting you, makes me feel super comfortable, because I actually had another insurance person that I brought on, but something about seeing all of these leaders, she realized that she had a dream to do something else. So she stopped doing insurance. So when I met you, it was like God sent you to me. Like, don't worry, I got someone for you. And then just hearing your passion about it, like and seeing that chart, Jeanette, like that chart, I think is a game changer for people, because it's a theory in your head. It feels like impossible. Like when you think of $10,000, I don't just have $10,000 laying around. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mom and all of that. But you already know people be getting like $10,000 back from their tax returns. And I'm thinking like, I don't really get that much, but I'm thinking I could save them up, I guess. And when you were talking, all I could picture is my children 48 years from now with $2 million, $2.5 million, because I made a great decision on their behalf. You know,
I saved my first $10,000 after I started doing this part-time. But I saved it by putting $200 away in a savings account with the credit union that I could not touch. So I intentionally didn't have a debit card. I intentionally had the credit union far away from where I live. I intentionally had it so it was not connected to anything I could transfer, right? Mm-hmm. And so every pay period, I was putting $200 a month in there. And so that accumulated for the whole year. Then I got a tax back refund, and boom, that was my first $10,000 that I saved. But in order for me to do that, I had to be extremely intentional because I had to be honest with myself. I was an impulsive shopper. I had to be in rehab, okay?
So he needs to be here because he's gonna talk about your red bottoms. He's like, yeah, y'all like to buy them red bottoms.
and so literally, it's like, as we think about doing these things for our children, for a lot of us, these things are first generational. Like we are, especially if you're a millennial, you're the first generation to really start diving into it and have the ability to possibly receive wealth from the baby boomers, but then also transfer wealth, right? And so we are like critical stage, right? So we're going to be teaching and we're going to be learning at the very, very same time, right? And so transparency, I think, is a really cool thing. I think sometimes the stigma of, I'm the parent, you're the child, I'm going to tell you what to do, that leadership complex can kind of prevent you from keeping them engaged in the process, right? And help prevent you from being willing to learn and then also teach at the same time. But we got to get out of that because we ain't got a lot of time to waste, okay?
Right.
And so when it comes to these kids, like a couple of things that we could do is set them up on an allowance, right? And listen, I know sometimes it can be hard, but set them up on an allowance. We got to get them seeing money and understanding it early. What about periodic jobs? You had an excellent guest on the last time that talked about hiring your jobs and your children into the daycare, right? And then we take those earnings, right? And we reinvest it out into the IRA, which is a great tool for them to be able to grow that money. But in the meantime, the way they're going to become millionaires and multimillionaires is that we start them early on their relationship with money, okay? So having those jobs, whether it's like babysitting for the teenager or going out doing something, right? Kids don't want to mow no lawns these days. But hey, we need a lemonade stand. We need something interactional, whatever they love to do. If they're getting ready to sell some of those games that you bought them on that PS 500 or whatever it is, all of those things, right? We gotta teach them skills on money, on how to earn it. Yeah. And then how to use it, right? So when we're getting gifts for birthdays, what are they doing with that money, right? Right. And so those are one of the biggest things is to get them involved, get them seeing the money. But here's one of the other things where when you talk about starting a business, right? A lot of the people who are connected are business owners, right? So teach them how you started the business. You may not have the time right now if you're in the growth stage of your own business to really help them start a whole new business, but right. You can bring them into the fold. Educate them, take them to the side and say, hey, this is how we charge, right? This is how we create the revenue. These are our expenses, right? And then this is our profit, right? Take the time to really teach them because then that's going to create a sense of value in the business ownership. Yeah. That's how you get family businesses, right? Because now they're connected emotionally to the business that you're building today, right? And so maybe it's not, and you might change careers or you might start another business, or maybe they see, hey, I don't want to do the daycare, mom, but I got this grand idea for another business, and they won't be afraid of the challenges of it because you've connected with them and you brought them in the fold on how the business even works in the first place. And then you can also help prevent them from some of those minds that are out there of, what not to do, right? Mm. Okay. And so that firsthand experience is definitely there. So we've got to pull our kids in. We're always sending our kids away to camp, away to here, away to there. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we're going to have to pull them in and sit them down and say, okay, this is what's really happening, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I think is credit and investing. And we'll talk about that in just a second, or just kind of dive a little bit deeper on there. But another way that we kind of help them with the millionaire status, or really just understanding money, is really having a relationship with understanding credit and debt early. Okay.
Yeah.
So real quick, I picked my niece up. We went to my nephew's football practice, right? And so they have like a concession stand out there. And my niece is like, oh, I got money. I could go and get me something. And I'm like, okay, cool. Go ahead, go, girl. She comes back 2 minutes later with the sad face and no snacks. And so I'm like, what happened? She was like, my battery died on my phone, so I couldn't use my Cash App card.
Oh.
So listen, we don't use cash anymore, right? So you have no money. Soon as the battery died, you're done, right?
Right.
Listen, okay? So this is why we have to teach our kids about the money and the tools and just being prepared, right? So she's all sad about this, but that could be something bigger in life when we don't understand how credit works, or the debt turns out, and now you can't get a house, and now you can't get an apartment because you didn't understand how the things work. Let your children see you paying for things at the grocery store with the money. I go to the store with my daughter, we're scanning things, I'm showing her how to pay, right? And then the other thing too is, like, sometimes when you pay with the cash, we got to get the math right. We got to get the calculations right. I can't tell you how many times I try to get exact change back, and the person at the register is looking crazy, like they can't count.
Right. And I'm like, dang, if the register goes down. I love that, Jeanette. I'm glad you said that. I feel so proud because my kids they're in the teens now.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were little, like learning to count and things like that, what I would do is when they did well, I would give them all dollars. Like I would give them a budget and take them to Dollar Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And probably like $5 a piece, nothing crazy. And tell them, listen, everything's $1, but you got to allow for tax. You got to count your change. You got to make sure you have enough before you go. So that would be a discussion. I mean, it would piss people off in the line because I got 3 kids, and I would let them do their own single transactions each. So they had their own experience and they could count their change. They could make sure the cashier is charging you right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the people would be pissed on the line, like, oh God. And I'm like, I don't care. And they're like, Mommy, they got an issue. I don't care. This is a life lesson for you guys.
Let me tell you something.
To feel it, like you said.
And if they're not teaching it in school, right, we got to teach it at home. Right. Because our kids need to understand how the money is working. You can't miss that component. We will be so far behind by not teaching our kids these things. When people were younger, they didn't have a choice because everything was cash. Like you had to learn, okay, this a quarter, this is a nickel. Now we've got to be more intentional about it, because when you have swiping a card and things like that, it feels like free money. It doesn't feel like you really earn it. It's not the same, right? And so we've got to really take our time to understand that, helping them get a secure credit card as a teenager that you monitor and you work together to help build up that credit. Part of your credit report is the length of time that you had credit available. So then when it comes to when they want to start that business or when they want to do something major with their life, do they have the credit to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So these things are all a part of the picture of making sure that our kids become millionaires. It's not just a matter of, hey, let me just put this money away, stash it, and let it grow. That's just one aspect. Mm-hmm. Right? It's about what we inherit. It's about what we create. It's about what we build too, because we don't just want them to become a millionaire one time because they, inherited an account at 48 years old.
Right.
We want them to be able to get there a lot sooner, right? And so we want them to be able to be multi-millionaires. And so we've got to be looking at the whole financial picture in order for them to be able to do that. And credit is definitely going to be a big component of it. If you get them a credit card, you could have them buy something that they want on it. like a tablet, a computer, or something like that. And then you could show them the interest, show them with their allowance or whatever, how they're earning money, how to pay that off and become a good steward of it. So now they have a good relationship with credit and they don't go out here splurging and doing something crazy like what I did when I went to college and tool up Urban Outfitters with my first credit card.
They get you in college. That's one thing. I went to Howard University. God bless them. But they sent people to the dorms with candy, girl. Candy.
It was Subway. It was Subway for us.
I was having munchies one night and they knocked on my door with some Snickers. And I was like, and all you had to do was sign up for this Discover card. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to get it. So I didn't care. They sent me the card. All I had to do was activate it with like $1,200 on it.
Let me tell you. So that's it's a predatory lending practice. They typically don't do that type of stuff anymore. They had us going to Subway and they bought us a Subway sandwich. And I thought the same thing, Toya. Girl, they gave me $2,500 on that credit card. I ain't gonna say the bank name. I don't want nobody coming after us. But they know they was wrong for that. They know they was wrong.
Yeah, but like you said, I didn't know anything about credit or money or anything. I didn't even, it took me a while before I even used it. But once I did, I lost my job. I had my little school job, whatever, and then I couldn't pay it. And then next you know, a $200 purchase became, like you said, $2,500 worth of interest that tore my credit up at a young, early age. You know what I mean? And I didn't have any guidance in that area to say, hey, you know, watch out for this, watch out for that.
Mm-hmm. I had to learn the hard way with that.
Mm-hmm. Now we got Paulette. Hey, Paulette, thanks for coming. And Mercedes, thanks for coming. Now, you guys, I hope you guys have been tuning into the conversation that we're talking about. Do you guys have any questions or comments before we move forward to the next part of the slide? Because I always want to hear from our panelists and have you guys chime in. I don't know if you have a similar experience or if you heard something so far that you didn't know already, or, you know, or that you feel like you want to take into consideration, you know, going forward. Now, let's see. Paulette, you're up here. Did you want to say hi or anything? You all good? All right. Well, I'm going to pass it back to you, Jeanette, and we're going to keep going. But guys, y'all can pop it in the chat or just come off mute if you have any questions, okay? All right. Let's keep it rolling.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so good. So we've got our relationship with credit cards. We want our kids engaged into the money practices, but then we want to set up a couple of fundamental accounts and teach them about it, right? So our first fundamental account that we want to have is our emergency savings, right? And I know everybody's familiar with an emergency savings. Sometimes I meet people, Toya, that are really good with saving money and they have too much money in their emergency savings. Now, I know that kind of sounds crazy, but it's true, right? So you should have a couple of months of your income in your emergency savings. But the reason why you don't want to have a lot more than that just stashed in there, or why you would want to diversify that, is because typically emergency savings are not getting any interest. So now that money's not growing. But then we have short-term accounts, and then we have wealth building accounts, which you see are like your retirement accounts. And these are typically going to be something that you would make sure is getting a higher rate of return. And we could talk a little bit more about that, or ways to be able to get those accounts if a person has questions about it as we go through the presentation. But these are definitely going to be your different strategies for saving your money. Now, this kind of piggybacks on our last session that we had about making our children millionaires, and then also the rule of 72 concept that I showed you before. So it's showing here on the left-hand side of the screen an individual who maxes out an IRA from ages 22 to 29, okay? So $6,500. So doing that for those years consecutively every year is going to have compound interest working in your favor. It's showing, I know it's kind of small on the screen, but it's showing the accumulated value, right? So after the year 29, you're talking about $79,000 in cash, right? Now, say again.
This is in the period of 7 years?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, go on. I was just looking at the age.
Yeah. 79,000 in cash, right? And so when we're talking about preparing for our future or having a down deposit to buy our first house, right? You know, money can definitely be there if we are preparing early and doing the right things, right? And so that contribution in this particular scale stops at age 79. And so, I'm sorry, at age 29. And then the money continues to compound and grow from there, right? So the total contributions is $52,000. But at age 67, your child has $2.3 million. Now, let's talk about why you don't want to wait to get started. Okay. Because if we change that scenario just from 30, starting at age 30 and contributing the same amount per year, we'd have to contribute from age 30 until 67 to get $2.2 million.
Wow. So that's what, 37 years versus 7 years.
And the reason for that, the difference is because of the compound interest. The longer the money sits there, the more it doubles, right? And so those doubling periods are critical for you to be able to get the growth that you're looking for. So you definitely want to make sure that you're starting as soon as possible. This hypothetical situation is showing a 9% rate of return. Guys, a 9% rate of return is not crazy. It's very much achievable in a simple investment account, a mutual fund, something like that. S&P 500. I mean, there's a lot of different ways for us to be able to get 9% rate of return.
That's why I'm here, because I'm looking for that. One of our most, I say, famous classes, our most popular class is retirement planning. And I mean, I'm telling you, that class, when we do it at conferences, when we do it online, whatever, it is always packed. We got to do another session. And he jumps into that too. So he talked about shopping around to get the best rates. So I went to my bank. I ain't gonna say which one. I got like 3 different banks that I use. I diversify, and I was really disappointed when I asked about their IRAs and the interest rate. One thing I was disappointed is when the banker didn't even know. He told me, I got to talk to my manager and get back to you. I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing here? You don't know these things offhand. And then when they got back to me, it was well under 3%. I'm like, what?
Okay, so let's shed some light on that, because that's really important. The first place we go if it ain't friends and family is to the bank. Okay. And let me tell you, listen, they don't always, so not every bank even has investment accounts available, right? So they're giving people fixed rate of returns, right? So they're giving them 1.73% rate of return. Their money is not actually being invested in the market. And so that's where the problem comes into play. And when you talk about a personnel, I talk to people that have clients that work in banks all the time. I teach them the rule of 72. They never heard of it, even though it's coined as the banker's rule, right?
Right.
So they can't even tell you how fast or slow your money is doubling, right? They can't even tell you. So we've got to talk about brokerage accounts. I have a slide that I can show before we close out that shows you some of our strategic partners, but we're talking about real investment companies. I like how the young lady that was on the screen earlier, she talked about, I think she had an account with Fidelity, right? Those are actually one of our strategic partners as well. But you gotta kind of step out of that normal box so that you can get some actual investment accounts, some brokerage accounts to get those higher rates of returns. Okay. So just to kind of recap on where we are, the first thing is that we've got to address our relationship with money, right? We've got to start learning more about how it works. We've got to teach our children early, and we've got to explore that relationship from an educational standpoint through experience. And that's going to be having them have an allowance, teaching them how money works, teaching them about the credit card, sitting down with them and help them understand the statements and building that credit at a young age as you get yours together as well, right? And putting those pieces in place. Now, one of the biggest things that people talk about all the time is the life insurance component. And I definitely want to talk about this because life insurance is looked at as a tool to create generational wealth. But one of the things that's really important about it is that we use it in the proper facet. A lot of times people are promoted these different types of scenarios on how to leverage life insurance and using it for this and using it for that. And then the client gets the contract and find out at the wrong time that it don't work that way, right? So when you, as you remember from the theory of decreasing responsibility slide, right? You have someone with young children have debt, mortgage, right? Loss of income is going to be financially devastating to that family. So that's when you need to have a lot of life insurance, not just something to bury you. The average person in our community has like 50,000 in life insurance. A brand new car is like 40 something thousand dollars right now. Where are we going with that? How are we creating wealth with that?
Right.
That ain't enough. Okay.
No.
So the thing about life insurance is that it's easier to buy the younger and healthier you are. Waiting to the last minute or waiting to get sick or waiting till you're older to buy it may not be the best strategy if we're really going to be able to transfer that to our children. Okay. And so there's a couple of things that I want to just kind of note about it. So a lot of times people are either they're buying the life insurance through their job, or maybe they've gone to a credit union to buy a policy. If you bought something called accidental death and dismemberment, you got to pass away in an accident. So listen, the statistics say that, of course, you may not pass away that way. So you run the risk of not having anything paid out. And the last thing is that we have, a family business. We've got things that we've created. We've got all these responsibilities, and then we've got to turn around and lose everything and put the family member on GoFundMe. So life insurance is tax-free when it comes in, the benefit, and you can get a lot of it to create a temporary estate. Okay. So instantly, like today, I could pull up my life insurance policy and show that I have $800,000 in coverage here. I've got 500,000 in coverage there, right? I know for sure that my goal for my child is that she becomes a millionaire, that she has investments in place, that we're preparing for her future, right? But what do they have? They need time to grow, right? But if something were to happen to me today, instantly the money that I would have been funding in the investment account can get funded because of the life insurance benefit. You see what I'm saying? So now that money is there for her future. That money is there for her first house. That money is there for college. And now she's automatically a millionaire. And then when we invest it, what's going to happen? It's going to continue to grow and compound, right? So everything that I would want her to have that I'm investing money for her with from day one, I can protect the ability to do that by having the right kind of life insurance. You following me?
Definitely.
Okay. So now let's talk about the life insurance. I kind of touched on the theory of decreasing responsibility, so I'm not going to go back through that. But there's two major categories. There's term life insurance, and then there's cash value products. And so term life insurance is very straightforward. There's no investment component. It's really a death benefit. And your term means that your coverage is going to be locked in for a set number of years. Okay. And then typically these have a lower premium. So the benefit of having the lower premium is that now I can get a high value amount of life insurance coverage when I need it the most without breaking the bank. So when you look on the cash value side, typically these products are much more expensive because you're paying for life insurance and a savings plan that's bundled together. Okay. Now, in theory, it's like, okay, I know I need life insurance. I know I need savings. But when we don't understand the fine print of how that contract works, we potentially set ourselves up to lose a lot of money. So I never look at buying life insurance as an investment, like an investment vehicle. And legally, it's not even, you can't even use it with that terminology unless you have something called a variable life insurance policy where you have an investment license to even sell it. Okay. Most people don't have an investment license when they promoting it on social media. Okay.
Right. Wait, can you go back to that last slide? Because I was like, this one, yes, because as a mom, when my kids were first born, when I had my first child, first thing I thought about, I was getting all of these mail inserts from Gerber Life. It's like they know you just had a baby, and they know you know, when you're a new mom, the first thing you're thinking about is protecting that baby, you know. So I signed up for it because I was like, I grew up with life insurance. My grandmother, she did get life insurance first and stuff. So, but that wasn't true for a lot of my peers growing up. They didn't even know what life insurance was. But my grandmother, she was responsible in that way. So I thought I was being responsible too. So, and I went for the Gerber Life. But what I didn't know was the difference between term, whole life, and all of these different, it was so many terminologies that I really truly didn't understand. So I just kind of got what sound okay. You know what I mean? So when you talk about the cash value, what I saw in here that really struck me is the includes an investment component, and then the term no investment component. So can you just talk about the what as far as
how that works
from
and the difference?
say a term.
Okay, so this is part is very important to know, right? So when you talk about whole life or universal life, and I have a list of them on the next slide, I think that I could show you the
Okay,
different
we can move on to the
value.
next topic. But I just wanted to, when I saw that, it really struck me emotionally
Let's
because
jump to this one.
yeah, I'm one of those people that I'm calling myself trying to be proactive, but I don't really know.
So the types of products of cash value life insurance are typically called whole life. Sometimes they'll say permanent insurance. They'll say universal life, variable life, index universal life. You may hear a concept called infinite banking. Okay, so these are all products that bundle life insurance and savings together. And so they're supposed to grow a cash value, which is tax deferred. It's not always tax free, okay, in terms of the growth on the investment. So that's also a myth that is out there, that all the time, you know, your earnings are going to be tax free. That's not necessarily true. You may also have to pay taxes when you liquidate that investment or that cash value, depending on the growth that you received on it. Okay. Now, they may have living benefits and things of that nature. But the thing that's really important to know about these particular policies is that because your life insurance and your savings is bundled together, there's always fine print on how the structure or how the access to those accounts. So typically, when you own those types of accounts, you're going to have surrender charges, you're going to have fees and things that come out of your money when you initially buy it, right? So if you're paying for a whole life policy, for example, and the monthly premium, let's say, for example, sake is $200. I could go back to this slide. It's showing $123 a month, right? The actual cost of the insurance itself is going to be always less than what you're paying. Okay, so you're always going to be overpaying above what it really costs to insure you, because the insurance company is not giving you free money. The money that goes in the savings comes from the premiums you pay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this particular example with the whole life, it's showing $100,000 life insurance policy, and the person is paying $123 a month, right? So if they're 35, starting out paying $100 a month for 100,000, well, I probably pay less than that for $1 million, okay, on my term policy, okay? So now if we're talking about the psychology of being able to be financially independent and build wealth, and we know that our children, our family, we've got assets, we got a house, and we need to be properly protected, why would I want to pay $123 a month for 100,000 if I could get 300,000 for $58?
Right.
Right. And so what happens is, and this is locked in on a 35-year term, which means your prices are good for the next 35 years.
Wow, that's
So
not bad.
right. So the reason why, you know, we're sold that we should buy the whole life is for two reasons. We say, oh, well, the term it'll never end. You know, I could keep it forever. Well, that just means you're going to keep paying forever.
Right.
If I wanted to, if I'm in bit for-profit business, I definitely want you to pay until you drop. Okay.
Right. So that's whole life. When you got to pay until you die.
Yeah, you're gonna
Pay for
pay.
your whole life. That's why
Yeah,
it's called whole life.
there you go. There you go. You with me? And then you're paying a higher premium for per month so that some of the money can go into the savings part of the policy, right? But they've got surrender charges and fees in the beginning. So sometimes you might check the policy to see how much is in the savings a year later and there's no money available. I've seen some contracts go up to 9 years where there's no money available in the savings.
Wow.
So that money is pretty much gone. You just kind of threw it away, right? And so then after those grace periods are over, you're able to get interest on your savings. And that interest rate for a whole life typically is going to average around 4%. Sometimes when we do policy reviews, we can look at the cash value, do the math calculator and say, oh, yep, you got 4%. Well, 4% is slow growing. It's really not, I mean, we could do better with that. So if we actually take and buy the term, we can get more life insurance, which was what our family will need if we pass away. And then we could pay a lower monthly premium, and then we could invest separately. Now, one of the myths that's out there is that we can't invest. Well, there are a lot of ways that we can invest, and a lot of these, even, like the Fidelity accounts or accounts that we set up, $25 a month starting out for you to be able to invest and get higher rates of returns like 9% on your money. So it's really not as far away or foreign as we think it is. You don't have to have a large lump sum of $5,000 or $7,000 to invest. There are resources available where you can invest at a lower cost per month. Well, the benefit to that is that now you're getting a higher rate of return on your savings, and then you've also increased the value of your life insurance. God forbid you pass away too soon. So now, if we look at the growth chart down at the bottom, the whole life policy will never be designed for you to have more in the cash value than what the policy death benefit is worth. So no matter how much you keep paying in there, it's always going to be up to 100,000. Once you get to 100,000, the policy is going to mature, so they'll just give you your money back in most cases, right? Now, if you invested instead, this person at a 9% rate of return, okay, they're reaching 50,000 by age 55, right?
Right.
If you look at the example and that money is still growing, the difference that we've saved them, by the time they're age 70, not 100 years old, age 70, they're already at 183,000 in cash.
Wow.
So the whole life policy is saying by age 100, you're going to have 100,000, where then the investment with the difference that we save from the $58 a month, that's actually 183,000 in cash by age 70.
Wow.
So now when you're going to retire, you got a little nest egg.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking, like, who's living to 100 these days? You got your one-offs on the internet, but I'm
That
just
ain't
saying.
that's not life expectancy.
It's not. I'm just being realistic. Like, who you gotta wait till you're 100, and then when you're 100, you barely could walk. So what you gonna do
Right.
with 100K? But
Mhm.
I guess gift it out to your grandkids or donate it or whatever.
Right. And so here's the other caveat to this, right? When the person wants to use the money in the whole life policy, they've got to borrow it back from the insurance company. So it was your money that you put there in the first place.
Is it interest on that loan?
Yeah, you're gonna pay it back plus interest.
Oh, damn.
And typically the interest rate is going to be higher than what they're giving you. It might be between 5 and 8%. So you already gave them the money once, you pulled it out to use it, and then you got to give it to them again plus interest. And most people, when they sell it, they're like, oh, you're borrowing from yourself. It's still growing interest while your money is pulled out. And the reality of it is, in most cases, if that person borrowed money from their whole life policy that they actually need for their family, they took the money out because they needed it.
Right.
So they actually hold the death benefit as collateral for the loan. So if you don't pay it back, you're going to lose the life insurance.
All that you work for.
So you're putting, every time you pull money out of the cash value to use it, you change the strategy of the policy, right? And the growth projections on it. And in addition to that, you're also putting the death benefit at risk. So if you step, I can't tell you how many times, Toya, clients have called me up and was like, hey, Jeanette, I got a situation. I need to pull some money out. One of my clients, his oldest children, wife passed away. Kids were in college. He needed to move. He needed a bigger space for them, right? Well, he used to have a whole life policy, but then we did a term and invested the difference. Call me up. How much do I got in my investment account? A little over 30 grand. All right, can you send me, I need 15 out of there. Okay, no problem. 2 days later, he's got his $15,000 in his account. He never took a loan, Toya.
Right, because that was all his money.
So he just keep contributing back into it. Compound interest works in the favor. The money grows back up. He never put his life insurance at risk for taking that money out. Because if he would have pulled it out and used that $15,000 out of his whole life policy, now he's got a lien on his life insurance.
Right.
So he would have had to pay that $15,000 back to restore the value of his life insurance policy that needs to be there to protect his assets and his family if he were to pass away.
Wow.
So we really create wealth a little bit better as when we're building, when we separate these two products. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this part of it is really tricky because people will swear by it. They're like, "Oh no, you got to get that."
Yeah,
they will fight you. They will fight you.
I feel so much better. Like, oh.
I want to listen. Pull out your contract. Pull out your contract. Let's run the numbers.
Yeah.
Every single day, I'm like, let's pull out the contract. Let's run the numbers and make it make sense. I'd rather not you go by what I say. I'd rather prove it in writing. And so that's the biggest thing that we're talking about here, because these are the two major ways that we facilitate the wealth. We protect the assets that we're building with the life insurance if we pass away prematurely, and we grow the money through investing. So we've got to have the right strategy on both of them for them to effectively work for our children. I just talked to a lady preparing for retirement yesterday. She's 55 years old, right? She's got some money, so we're going to put some things together for her. However, she's paying for 2 mortgages right now. Why is she paying for 2 mortgages? Because her father passed away, did a reverse mortgage on the house, and had no life insurance. The mom is still alive, right? So she got to come in and buy the house so that the mom is not displaced. So now she got to go. She buys the house. Thank God she was in the position to do it. But now she has a new mortgage that she's paying for her mom to be able to keep the house and live in it.
Wow.
Now, what would have happened if he actually had life insurance?
She wouldn't have to do none of that.
Pay that thing off. Mom still keeps her house. So that's why it's so important for us to have it. And why we got to stop waiting to get it, because if we wait too long, we may not be eligible for it. Does that make sense? So these are coming. I showed this slide earlier, but these are coming. Some of the ones to look out for. So if you open up your contract and you see that you have one of these types, I don't mind if you reach out to me, and say, "Hey, Jeanette, can we sit down and just kind of review this, make sure this strategy makes sense. Let's look at the numbers together." Because you got to keep in mind, you got to have a license to sell it. So the language inside the contract is typically not written for the average consumer, right? So it's not a matter of, well, let me go look at my contract and see what it say. Hey, listen, I know you're an expert, okay? I know you read contracts for the government, but this ain't the same thing now.
Right.
Okay? Bring the policy. Come on, bring that policy in here and let's talk about it, because we want to make sure we have the right kind of eyes on it. Okay. I literally had another lady that I'm working with for retirement yesterday. She thought that because she had life insurance on her job, that she didn't need to own a policy outside of work. And I said, well, if you get sick and go out on long-term disability, did you know that you're going to lose that life insurance? They're not going to cover you anymore. She said, what you talking about? She emailed me the contract. She said, Jeanette, I looked at this, but I couldn't figure it out. Can you? And then I scroll right on down, line item, such and such and such, exclusions on what active work is. As soon as she goes out, she's not on active work. If she goes on long-term disability, she's got to do a full day of physical work before that life insurance gets reactivated. Well, most of the time when people go out on long-term disability, they ain't coming back to work. They didn't have a stroke or something like that.
Right.
Life insurance gone. So that's why we can't rely on it like that. We've got to own it outside of work, and we've got to have a solid policy.
I love this. I didn't even realize the time, girl. We way over, but listen, it looks like we're gonna have to have a part 2 to this, Jeanette.
This is actually I think my last slide here.
Keep going, but I still feel like people will have more questions. But while we're doing this, I want to get how do people reach out to you, Jeanette?
Yeah.
Or you want them to email you? Yeah. There we go. Let's do that so that whoever's on, if you guys gotta go, Paulette and Mercedes. Thank you for the heart, Mercedes. If you guys gotta go to get this information, screenshot it, and definitely reach out to Jeanette and set up an appointment with her because she's local to Maryland. I'm in DC, so I'm coming to her office because I need her help. And if you need her help too, come on, let's all go up there and get what we need because this whole thing is tricky. So I just want to put that out there. So let's go ahead and finish the last slide though. But I want to make sure that the lady
absolutely. My number is there. If you screenshot it or put it up on a computer, you can scan the QR code there. That takes you right to my booking site. You can get a free consultation from this video if you prefer to do so. It's not a problem at all. So they're just transferring. You've got to make sure you have the proper life insurance plan and you got to have it in place until you're financially independent. You want to create wills, trusts, power of attorney, and advance directives. Now, there are avenues where you can get these things done at a low cost, but if you want a specialized attorney, you want to look up at an estate planner to help you put these things in place. Guys, these documents are really important, okay? Because if you get sick, if something happens, your children, your family members need to know what to do. When I worked at the senior community, sometimes people would pass away because it was an apartment complex. We had to lock the doors when the person passed away. So their children could not just come up in that apartment and take whatever they want out of there for the funeral, for pictures, none of that. Those doors were locked. They had to go to the courts, be declared the executor of their estate, bring that documentation back, and then we could give them access because technically they're not legally on the lease. We can't just let anybody up in here, right? We didn't have people squabbling in the lobby trying to get up in grandma's apartment. So no, you got to make sure that they know what to do and that they have the executive estate plan in place. And so all of these documents are going to be important. Power of attorney does not go into death, okay? It's something that's there when you are alive, okay? Seek out long-term care policies once you reach 55. That's critically important because you want to make sure that if you get sick, you have a real plan in place. If somebody tries to sell you an IUL and say it's long-term care, it's not the same as a real long-term care policy, okay? Review your beneficiaries and make accounts TOD, transferable upon death, okay? So if you got questions about that, definitely let me know. But again, I'm going to close it out for here. I thank you so much, Toya, because I know we went over a lot and we talked a lot. We were kind of in the zone today. But yeah, so you're more than welcome to reach out to me. Our office number is listed there, 301-242-3554. Or you can shoot me an email. My website is also there at the bottom.
And I want to shout out to Paulette. She put in the chat. She said, I want to know more about investing, especially for my grandchildren. Please share your knowledge with me. I appreciate your expertise and I applaud you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So yes, Paulette, if you take my number down, feel free to give me a call and we can set something up for you right away, okay?
All right. And Paulette, I see you moving and shaking. She's trying to listen in. So since you're moving and shaking, Paulette, I'm going to email you her information after this, okay? So you can get to her. Okay? I'm gonna make sure I send you her information because I see you out and about. All right, well, thank you. Wonderful. So I'm so excited about this, Jeanette. Like, I can't wait. I want to come to your office and, really pick your brain even more because every slide you put up, I wanted to dig in with more and more questions, but I wanted to let you get through the material. But
yes. So we could definitely do a deeper dive. Like, that's not a problem. Sometimes when we have these conversations, like, we want to make sure we kind of cover all of our bases, but we could be a little bit more focused on a particular topic if need be. But I just think one of the biggest components is really understanding those different accounts and really getting involved early. But yeah, absolutely. I'm totally open for that.
I can't wait because this is something that I know has been bugging me. I mean, for years, it's been on my mind, but I just haven't found anybody that I can really trust that is truly, like you said, knowledgeable. And the fact that you are, your credential, your license, you went through it and you have so much experience. So I'm excited to go through with it, you guys. So I say, set up your appointment with Miss Jeanette because the more you know, the better you can actually make decisions, make a good informed decision. So guys, I just want to thank you, Jeanette, for coming on the show today and just sharing your knowledge because some people are gatekeepers. They just want you to buy the stuff. They're not really trying to educate you on what is the best thing for you, So thank you for being so candid and open. And I'm sure I'm going to get more questions. And what I'll do is we'll set up another time for you to come back and do a deeper dive. And what I'll probably have is some more like questions that's already posed so we can address those things. Hey, Mercedes, you want to come on and say hi? She's like, she driving. That's Miss Mercedes, y'all. Real quick, that's Mercedes. She is a longtime craft member and she just graduated too. With her, let me see, she just told us because she's got the picture with her accomplishment. Yeah. So she just graduated. She's got 3 centers in Philly. She's representing. She specialized in special needs families and children. She's out there doing her thing, you guys. That is who I call the quiet storm. Mercedes knows she's my baby. I love her whole family.
And so, a new mom too. She's
a great supporter and she's super responsible. A new mom too. You just had a baby? What? I didn't even know you was pregnant. Are you serious? What? See, oh my goodness. Congratulations. I see when I call it a quiet storm, how she have a whole baby that fast? I just saw you last summer. And that fast, you got another baby out of that womb. Oh, wow. Congratulations, honey. Look at that. So she's definitely on here because she's probably going to be calling you and make sure these children of hers become millionaires if they're not already. And Miss Paulette, I want to let you come on in next time. I'll be in touch with both of you guys. And if you didn't get the information, I'll send it to you because you both are on the go. So I want to thank everybody for supporting the Craft Cafe, everybody that was here today on the line, and definitely Jeanette Holeman of Primerica coming in to really give her expertise. And don't worry, she's going to be back. So make sure you get with her and make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. That's Craft Cafe Live on YouTube so that you can get all of the episodes, past, present, and future, because you will get the notifications when I drop another episode. All right. So listen, take care, you guys. Have a great weekend and be safe out here, okay? Remember, ECE, we are the industry. We're the essential behind the essential, okay? Essential to the essential in this industry. Family childcare, stand up. And remember, we will be featured at the NAFCC. That's the National Association for Family Childcare, you guys. The conference next month, July, is going to be from July 22nd to the 28th. And yes, Better Futures are a part of the whole committee that created this Leadership and Leaders program, which we have a bunch, I would say a ton. There's a lot of them that are craft members, okay? So our leaders are moving and shaking, you guys. We will be featured in the pre-conference. So if you did not get your tickets, go ahead and get your tickets because you know Better Futures is going to be in the building. If you are not going to the social events, you know I'm going to be at every last one of them. You need to make sure you see me in the booth area, the vendor area, because you know I'm going to be having it popping at the table. I'm going to be doing interviews on the spot. So if you want to be a part of the show on site at the conference, then definitely let me know. If you want to volunteer at our booth, we had a lot of volunteers last year in Atlanta. and it went great. So come on down and party with us, have a great time and celebrate and salute family childcare, you guys. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and land this play. I'll see y'all later at the next one. Bye, guys.